Time is the main killer of hobbies and interests.
Am I prepared to sacrifice other things in order to go all in on this thing?
Yeah.
Or am I happy for this just to be a part of something where I'm still able to do it, but there isn't this level of like expectation or all in on this?
If you have a job that pisses you off and you do something that you just enjoy in the evening, either that would be martial arts, podcast, writing, you just zone out of all the happening that day and then you just fully immerse into something that you love. Hey people, welcome to our 8th episode of Triangle Theory. Today we're going to explore the topic of the importance of a hobby and why Gen Z are the best hobbyists. We decided to explore this topic because I think a lot of people getting into their career rut and forget that hobbies made them to connect on a spiritual level.
Whatever your passions, think about the intrinsic factors that motivate you and why you do them. I think that's a really important part. And I think it's leaning into those things that make you have a sense of flow state, things like that. I remember just in my life, I've veered off hobbies, then I've obsessed over different hobbies.
Yeah.
And my relationship with them has been quite difficult to try and like stick with them. Like there's been some certain hobbies that I've always had, some where I've put them down and brought them back up again. But either way, I think it's really important having things that do take you off just your normal day to day and allow you to kind of escape a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what cultivates a more spiritually sound human.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it starts with the hobbies, what are your hobbies and why do you like to do them?
My hobbies, I try not to include exercise as a hobby because I just try and make that an actual just way of life.
Mm-hmm.
But
A lifestyle.
it's just a lifestyle. It's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
2 hobbies I love. Reading. I absolutely love to read. Although I suppose that's becoming a bit more of a way of life now.
Mm-hmm.
And the other hobby I have is, well, slowly now another one. But I've always played the guitar and I love playing the guitar whenever I get the chance to. And I just fuck around. I don't have any aspiration to be in a band. I don't have any aspiration to I just love
The sound
just
of it.
sounding it and playing it and having fun with it. The other one I like as well is gaming.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Play
play the
really?
PlayStation. I fuck with the PlayStation.
That.
Yeah, man.
You
Like
got a PlayStation?
so I got an Xbox and I fuck around with that sometimes.
What do you
But
play?
like mainly just shooting games.
Shooting it.
Yeah. But I haven't actually plugged it in or played it for like I think maybe 4 or 5 months now, which makes me quite sad.
Really?
And then my housemate has just bought this other game called Baldur's Gate, which is literally so good. It's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons but on a game. But it just makes you disconnect.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's all about.
It does. That's why I'm not playing anymore.
Dude, it's so easy to be
Yeah,
I'm cancelling my day to just do this. Like,
No, I used to game a lot back in the day when I was a
Really?
teenager.
I used to play so much like Modern Warfare and Call of Duty.
I was a League of Legends person.
Ooh, damn.
Mate.
Maybe we should play sometime.
Yeah,
Maybe
we can do.
We should.
Can
We
do.
actually should. It'd be so much.
We can do.
What about you? What are your hobbies?
My hobbies are, well, different from you, I guess. I would consider my martial arts, even
Okay.
it's exercise,
Yeah.
as a hobby. I love doing it. Podcast now,
Yeah,
I think is
that's also true. Yeah,
it's
it's not
a huge
hobby.
one for me
Yeah.
now. It's actually taken a lot of time of mine, which I really enjoy. I'm happy to spend it after work or on the evenings. Happy to shoot the podcast in the evenings as well. I really don't mind. It makes me happy. It makes me have a purpose. I wouldn't call reading as a hobby. I just read it because I like reading, but it's not like it's my hobby. I'd rather just do it for like a self-development tool.
Okay.
And yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. That's
Yeah,
pretty much
man.
it.
And like, would you say that when you're in those moments where you're working on your hobby, you're doing things that you enjoy? It's passions.
Mhm.
So it takes away stress. It's there's no, you're not doing it for anything else but the reason that you enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of my friends that I used to do MMA with, he said he's on the way to become a professional fighter now, but he used to say that as soon as I step on the mats, all my worries are gone. Because that's it. Like once you step in that gym, start to exercise, your blood starts to flow, you start to hit pads, or maybe row in jiu-jitsu. And as well, I think it's really in that specific environment is really how to think about something else, especially if you're sparring, because you have to be in the moment.
Yeah.
Once your mind drifts away somewhere else, you're gonna get punched, and that's gonna be painful. And you can't let your guard down. You can't let any thoughts. You can't let any thoughts to come to your mind, because the consequences of it is getting hurt. So you definitely stay in the moment when you do martial arts. Or even a podcast. When I do research, I'm really immersed in what I'm researching and why I'm researching it, and I just enjoy it. I really enjoy another hobby I picked up. I really enjoy writing.
Nice.
So I write stuff, philosophy, or just lessons I learned. I think I'm not sure if they're correct or not. So whoever wants can read on a blog, Substack.
Yeah.
We put some lessons and experiences from our own life, and I'm not sure if they're good, but it makes sense for me. And the phrase that I like using from Naval Ravikant, it's not the same phrase, but I rephrase it a little bit. So he says, "Who I am to give you an advice. I'm just a monkey who looks up the stars." So I really liked it, because it is. We just monkeys around here walking on Earth. Really don't know, really not knowing what's going on.
Do you feel that the hobbies that you have now have had a profound impact on where you're at in terms of your career and also you as a person?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Really?
100%. Well, one of my first hobbies when I moved to the UK was jiu-jitsu. Obviously, I got into jiu-jitsu, and that just became my life. And I spend the most time in the gym, other than work. Like I was after work straight to the gym, and I just spend the whole time there, and then going back home, sleep. In the morning, I used to wake up, go to the park, exercise, and it became like a second job, but I enjoyed it so much. And if not jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't have met Charlie, I wouldn't have met you, I wouldn't have been doing this.
Hey guys, thank you so much for making it this far into the podcast. If you have any feedback, then please let us know, as we always want to make this podcast better. So hearing from you is always a pleasure. Please subscribe to all of our platforms, get involved at Triangle Theory. If you've got any comments, or if you want to share any topics that you think that me and Conrad would like to talk about, then please get involved. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
It's really strange how these little things, the little decisions that you made in your life, it creates that snowball effect of everything that happens in your life.
Sorry, you go.
Because when I started doing jiu-jitsu, I met my friend that we used to work in a marketing agency, and we then together went to Thailand, and then after I came back, I went to Thailand by myself while I was still working with him, and then I met my girlfriend in Thailand in the gym. And I was like, if I wouldn't have started doing jiu-jitsu, I would never have started working with him in a marketing, and I would never have gone to Thailand, and I would never have met my current girlfriend. So it's really interesting how, again, a little lesson in jiu-jitsu just created this butterfly effect.
Absolutely. It's like the interests that you have had a profound impact on how you live your life today.
Yeah.
And I think it's just about leaning into the things that make you feel good, because you never know what comes of that. And there's no expectation for anything to come of it. You probably had no expectation that you were going to meet your girlfriend because you joined jiu-jitsu.
Exactly.
Like, you don't have that level of expectation. You just have the level of, I enjoy it, I want to do it, and I've got no expectation on it. And then I think that's kind of how life works, because if you lean into the things that you enjoy, I think it gives you things back. I think that's kind of how it works.
Interesting.
If you think of it, the more things that you enjoy, the more enjoyable things come to you.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing a hobby or an interest, there's no expectation. Like, you'll get good at it after a while if you keep practicing and practicing and practicing, and you can give yourself challenges. But I think it's really important to, because I remember just always I was obsessed with things. Whenever I did things, I was always really like obsessed with them, into them. Like,
Same,
I was never half in it. I was always like, I'm all in on this.
If you're enjoying the thing, yeah.
If you're enjoying
Yeah,
it, I was
yeah,
like, this
same.
is all I want to do. This is all I think about.
Yeah.
I love it. And then my hobbies change, interests change, but I think it's really important to always have things that, or do things and just throw yourself in it, things that interest you, not having that level of hesitation of like, "Oh, I don't know if I should do that. Like, it seems a bit scary, or I don't know if it's for me. I might meet people. I'm not. Just do it. Go for it. You never know what happens. Never know what comes of it. Successes might happen. It just, life has a really weird way of working things out in that way, and
It goes back to our first episode, follow the feeling. It's just so true. I'm not sure if that's true, by the way, but it just works for me so well. Because every time I follow that feeling that is right, I feel that is right, and I feel that I have to do it. It just manifests in this amazing thing, an amazing adventure, and I meet these different people that I would never have thought I'm going to meet. So yeah, it's really, really interesting when you actually staying true to yourself and doing what you love.
And I think it feeds into your personality and who you are as a person. And it can be like, yeah, I don't have any interests or hobbies right now, and that's okay. But it's also, if things excite you, like, you don't have to turn all your hobbies and interests into big miraculous things. Like, they can just be super small. If you're just passionate about something, that's cool. I always used to look up to my grandmother in that way, because she was someone that had so many different hobbies, and she was always really good at gardening, and she was always really good at sewing, and she was also really good at cooking. And that didn't make her bad. She had other interests and career and livelihoods and things like that. But it wasn't until after she died when we sort of went back to the house and started looking sort of at her things. And it was all like perfectly laid out with like all of these descriptions of like how to grow things.
Really?
Yeah, it was just beautiful.
So
it was beautiful
fascinating.
because you can just see she was just all in on this interest and hobby and just loved it. And her garden, to be fair, was a testament to that, because it always looked amazing in the summer, and I had such fond memories there as a kid. And it was like beautiful. She had like all of these different vegetables growing, and that sparked my love and interest for cooking, because she was able to share her joy and passion with mine, and it kind of sparked more of an interest with me and Charlie at the time. And yeah, I remember seeing that, being like, wow, like her passion was really lovely to see. You could really see that she would really operate in a flow state around that, and I really valued that, and I really looked up to that, and I saw that there was a lot of power in that as a person. Because it keeps your mind engaged, it keeps your mind switched on, especially for an older generation as well. Same with my grandfather on my mum's side. He does like wood engraving and also plays the cello. I think he's not so much plays the cello anymore because he's got arthritis in his hands, but you can tell that from just his mind staying active and being in this space of doing something that is enjoyable and exciting keeps his brain engaged. And I think there's a lot to be said for the health impacts that has on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because if you're getting yourself into a state of flow, or where you're just not being distracted, you're just doing something that feels good, and even if it's for 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, half an hour, it doesn't have to be every day. It could be 4 times a week, 3 times a week, once a week. But you're giving yourself some time where you're just unwinding. I think there's so much to be said for that disconnect.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, I'm just going to disconnect from the world a bit.
Have you ever read the book called Ikigai?
Loved it.
Which author did you read?
It It's the green. It's like the green.
Because I read one.
There's
and
two. There's like another one.
Okay, so it could be 'cause I read the other one and I didn't really like it because it was talking about the concept for like a 1 or 2 sentences, and then the rest of it was just stories,
Yeah.
and I just didn't really like it. So, but one thing that I took from that book was it was talking about the blue zones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. The
people,
centurions
where people
live until they're like 110.
yeah, and they were like asking them questions, and apparently they said that having a purpose is what keeps them alive,
Yeah.
and I'm not talking about the purpose as in having a career or just just having. I'm not talking about the more than purpose. Let's just say they were just having interests
Yeah.
that just kept them going. And there's a few things that I noted on the sheet today as well. It's all about 4 factors. So it's enjoyment, effort, something that stimulates new experiences, new activities, new places, new people, and then comfort when you engage in activities with the people that you love and you admire, you love being around them. So I think it's very important when you choosing the hobby. It's very important to look at all of these things. And when I look at jiu-jitsu now, it challenges me. I love being around these people because every time I go there, I see Charlie, and we always roll together and we laugh. And it's sometimes it's almost like I'm not even going to exercise there. I'm just going to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
So it's all about that, surrounding yourself with that joy and obviously getting challenged.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Absolutely. It's also having that social element to it as well. And when I read that book, Ikigai, it's having this this makes up the self.
Yeah.
And that's the Ikigai.
Yeah.
And it's having this like you were saying, this stimulating, because some people like work until they will not stop working till they die. And I'm sure for you, like jiu-jitsu, you will be able to do it until you physically maybe cannot do it anymore.
Yeah.
Or even then you'll
With a
still be
stick.
or you still might be in the gym like looking at other people rolling.
Yeah.
Still
Maybe
being
maybe I'm gonna teach. In the future, you never know.
exactly, you never know. But it's one of those things that it keeps your mind busy in ways that doesn't even feel like it's a chore. It's
absolutely
out of just pure love of what you do.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much to be said for doing that. And I think that allows you to be more creative. I think that allows you to be more emotionally intelligent in terms of like knowing yourself and what it is that you enjoy. Because I don't base success on what I have in my bank account. I base success more on, do I have more time to do the things that I want to do? And
that's a really good one.
And I think that's what, if you're spending more time with the people you love and the things you care about and the things that you want to do, then fuck, man, like you've kind of unlocked the key to success. Like, I'd hate to be on the wheel and doing things I hate just for like what, so I can buy a nice like watch. Even saying that sounds depressing, but I think when you're alleviating your time to only be doing more things that you want to do,
unless you love collecting watches.
Unless you love collecting watches, or but then that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the intention of it.
Yeah, what's your intention behind what it is that you want to do?
Yeah,
that, and like we were saying in the previous podcast about relationships, like I think there's a lot to be said for like even in dates or looking for people and what their hobbies and interests are, and if that's something they're really passionate behind, or your friends and stuff, like damn, I can get behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we did some research on our generation. I'm not sure. Are you millennial or Gen Z still?
I'm not that much older than you, am I?
No,
I think I'm millennial. I think I'm a millennial.
But because I think I fall.
Are you Gen Z?
I think I'm Gen Z.
Oh fuck!
But I'm not the. I'm half millennial, I think.
Damn.
I'm not the typical Gen Z. Let's just say that.
So you're mature, like for sure. You're definitely not a typical Gen Z.
No, but like actually, it was really interesting because I believe and I see that Gen Z gets a lot of criticism on that they're lazy and they're not ambitious enough. But
Bunch of pussies,
yeah,
basically. Yeah.
yeah, as I was preparing for that podcast, I actually changed my mind a little bit. Well, not a little bit. I changed my mind probably like 60% because I've noticed that a lot of Gen Z people, they really um, prioritize their interests and hobbies instead of
And
choosing
health.
the modern way of getting into career and this and climbing the corporate ladder. Let's just say that. And I was like, well, that's it. That's very successful way of thinking because you actually choose what you like and you're trying to find your purpose. So I really, really changed my mind about it. And while I still think that a lot of Gen Z people are lazy, regardless if they have interests, I do believe that this way of thinking is what it should be.
It's interesting you say that because I read somewhere that there's more Gen Z drinking less as well,
Exactly.
going out
Yeah.
less.
Yeah.
Because I remember if I look at the generation before me and my generation, it's still very much geared towards like going out, getting
Yeah.
pissed, having a mad night out, going to festival, all the rest of it. And I think those are all really cool things. Like festivals are really fun. I think going out and being social with your friends is really important and really key. But it's not so much like I don't think Gen Z now view it as that. I think there's a bit more prioritization around, I want to look after myself.
Yeah.
I want to go to the gym. Like there are far more younger people in the gym than like my parents' generation.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And I don't think ages. I think you can still be old and go to a gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. In that maybe it's because there's more resources online and that you're trying to cultivate a happier life, and that's just what it is. Or is it just this shift where there isn't this need to like get fucked up, and that maybe that's not as cool as it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting one that doesn't seem to be so much the goal or the interest or the hobby that is cool.
Yeah.
I think people are more sort of steered towards, what are you into, man? Like if it's something around like our personal hobbies, or other people, like some people being like, whatever it is that you're interested in that isn't so much towards that. It's like, oh, that's actually really interesting. Why are you interested in that? It's like kind of allows you to open the door into who they are as people.
Yeah, they're just again connecting on a spiritual level, right? Like
Yeah.
If you are immersed into something, and I guess it comes that to I've looked at a couple of interests, the most popular Gen Z interest, or one of them was photography.
That's interesting.
That's very interesting because very interesting, but at the same time, I feel it's very common when I thought about it, because everyone's got cameras, everyone's got iPhones, and but then the other two really surprised me. So it was meditation and knitting.
Okay.
And knitting was something when I was growing up. Knitting became
something you do when you're old.
Yes, and if you do it when you're young, like something is wrong with you in a way. Especially in Lithuania, right? Like you have a hobby that everyone has it. You don't choose your own hobby. So yeah, it really, really surprised me that they don't really go like Gen Z people, especially generation. They don't really go by the flow in a way. They just try to think what's best for them, and that way they cultivate their interest around it.
Yeah, and I think that's a healthy way to look at it. It's like not following the crowd so much. It's like, actually, what are you interested in? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? I don't think there's, like following the crowd. Because remember, it was that thing that we said, you'll go further in the things that you actually enjoy. And if you really do enjoy them, and it also it also becomes one of those things where it's like, how good can I get at this? And then when you start breaking those barriers, it's like, how far can I actually go with it?
Yeah.
How far can I take this? Maybe I can.
The person who enjoys the walk is always going to
Walk further.
than the person who loves the destination. And I guess it's just, when I look at this podcast, I love doing it. And
Mm.
if the person who's not, if there is a person who's doing it for the clout or for the status, it's going to be really hard to compete with the person who's just doing it whenever he's got time, because he's not really thinking about the goal, because there's no goal. Like, the only goal is to do 52 podcasts this year. That's it. I don't really mind about subscribers or likes or
No.
views or whatever. So when you look from that perspective, is a completely different. And going back to the music, how could I compete against someone who loves music so much that every time he's got a moment, he's playing, he's writing music, he's listening to something, he's getting better. And I was thinking to compete while I was just playing 30 minutes a day. It just doesn't make sense. So
Do you think there's much to be said for, if you take your hobbies more seriously, that it can jeopardize the reason why you fell in love with them in the first place?
yes, and it's very interesting you said that, because I was looking on Reddit, why people quit their hobbies.
Yeah.
So there was a few things. There was I'm gonna actually read it. There was one of them was really sad, because it was depression. People just, when they're depressed, they don't really want to do anything right. But one of them, and not one of them, there was one thing that a lot of people posted about. It was turning my hobby into business. Um, and that got me thinking a lot, because I was like, what if that podcast works out and we'll actually have to sit down and make it, like, look at Chris Williamson. He spends like 30 grand on a podcast, and I'm pretty sure he's doing like exceptional research when he's doing it, and doing his exceptional attention to the detail when he's doing that. And I'm thinking, are you enjoying it as much as you when you were starting out? Another example as well. When I started doing martial arts, I enjoyed training, but then when I started to compete, I stopped enjoying it as much. Especially that happened, especially with Muay Thai, because it became a chore, a job. Like, every time after work, you just go training, and it's not about enjoy your training. It's about you have to train out. So it's not about I want to. It's about I have to.
Do you think it comes down to trying to find a balance with that, where maybe it's a case of where I want to I have to? Because when you start making it into more of a thing and you start having to do things because you've committed to things that allow you to do your hobby, which is great, but then it takes away from the reason why I wanted to do it, and that's because there was no expectation of it. It was just doing because I loved it. Do you think then it's important to sort of, for those that are maybe in that position, where it's kind of asking yourself, what's the expectation that you want to have with this interest? Is this something that you want to do full time or turn into a business, or is it something that you just want to just keep pretty chilled? Like, what led you to wanting to do competitions in the first place?
That's a good question, and I'm still trying to figure this out. I think part of it was the cloud. Part of it was everyone in my gym was competing at that time. And I wanted to. Okay, so the biggest part was because I was really, really afraid to fight.
Okay.
And I think, and at that time I was like, I was already deep into self-development. I'm in a bigger rabbit hole right now, but at that time I was already deep, and I was watching Goggins, and he said that the thing that you fear the most, you have to lean into that. So I think I started to lean into that competition and feed that demon inside of me. And once I did a couple of these fights, and I wasn't afraid of jiu-jitsu comps. It felt it felt like a role.
Yeah.
You still feel a bit nervous because you don't want to lose, but it wasn't the fighting nervous. nervousness, I would say. But when I went to Thailand and I had to fight, that's when I experienced that fear, I guess. So yeah, part of it was just to lean into the fear. And hey guys, your feedback is very important. And no, this is not an advertisement. Actually, what I'm asking from you is to leave a comment below what you liked and most importantly what you disliked about this episode, because we can improve on the next episodes and we can make a better content for you to listen. Give us also a topics you'd like to us talking about, and we can prepare, do your research and talk about it on the next episodes. Thank you. And see how you manage it, how you manage your emotions. So it was always about that, to be honest. But I think I drifted away. What was the question?
No. It's just really interesting. It's like, what led you to wanting to do competitions anyway, if it was already a hobby? And I suppose it's kind of looking at your hobbies and interests of, well, if I'm really good at it and I really enjoy doing it, why not do it? And why not take it further?
Yeah.
And there's always that feeling where you could just be like, yeah, why not? It could turn out. And I think that's the other thing is, as well, is you might try things and end up not liking them, and that's okay too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you were like did competitions, why not try it? You might turn around and be like, do you know what? Actually, competitions aren't for me. Maybe I don't want to do it. Maybe I just want to just do the Muay Thai in the gym and just spar and be with my mates. And then you're like, cool. I've got a way more kind of better understanding of things, of how I sit in this interest of mine.
I think that's where I'm leaning right now, to be honest. It's so interesting because that's what I want to figure it out in 2024. Am I fighting? Why am I fighting? And we're having this conversation right now, and I'm always having this in my head. So it's a good opportunity to vent out, I guess, a bit. I guess that's where I'm leaning right now. I'm starting to question myself. Why am I fighting? Because I enjoy the training aspect of it and the discipline of it, but I'm not sure if I'm enjoying the fighting aspect of it anymore. It's just, I feel like I've got more interests, and when I'm immerse myself into that, I just forget everything else, and I don't have time to spend with my family. I don't have time to spend with my girlfriend. I don't have time to spend on my podcast. I'm not as good at my work. I'm not as good at any of the things.
It's like it turns into this sacrifice of other things to pursue this thing, when actually it was just an interest and a hobby, and it doesn't need to be this big thing.
And I think now it's more like it's part of my personality as well, because when I started, I wanted to become so as you said, when I'm getting into something, I'm getting all in, and it's none of this, I'll just do this and
it's no joke. It's no fucking around.
It's just all in. And when I moved from singing to martial arts, I was like, that's it, I'm all in. I want to become a professional fighter. And that was basically,
so there was this professional element.
That was why I wanted to compete so much and get that experience. And because I started quite late, I started at 21, so I was like, I started to calculate, like, I'm got like 5-6 years to turn pro. And then from pro, I'll go like 5 to 6 years again to get to the UFC. I mean, I was always thinking about these things, right? But then slowly you start to realize that even though you love that thing so much, the aspects of it is not what you like. And I think first time when I realized that was before COVID. I was preparing for the Muay Thai fight, and it got cancelled literally a week before my fight because COVID hit. And that was probably the first time when I was preparing for like a show, quite better show than I used to do in the past, because before that was like tournaments and that, and it was really, really hard. But I was like, I'm not really enjoying it anymore. It became a chore, and then afterwards I changed gyms and I started to fight again. I was like, yeah, I'm enjoying it now. And in Thailand, I really liked it. And then I came back, I tried to do it again, and I was like, I'm not sure if. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out. So it's really, really hard for me to answer, but I think I'll have the answer in this year.
Yeah, man. Then again, it's hard because where you've got this expectation of when you were going in being like, maybe this is something I do want to do, transitioning from singing, but it's also a hobby and interest at the moment because I haven't turned it into this thing. But there's a decision made where it's like, do I go all in on this thing? Am I prepared to sacrifice other things in order to go all in on this thing? Or am I happy for this just to be a part of something where I'm still able to do it, but there isn't this level of like expectation or all in on this? Like, you can still become an amazing fighter and not compete and sacrifice all these things and like,
that's the thing. I'm thinking maybe I should just look at it as hobby and enjoy my training instead of getting there and losing my brain cells.
Well, that as well.
Training, man.
Man.
I'm not. I'm laughing, but that's true. Like those sparring sessions, it's just you get out and you start to question it. Like,
what am I doing this for?
What am I doing this for? Yeah.
Do I love this because I love the elements of why I got interested in this sport in the first place?
Yeah.
Or do I want to attach more meaning to it by making this something where I want to be known for it?
Exactly.
And that's a tough decision to make for anyone that's making that decision, whether it's finding a hobby that's now got a business opportunity behind it. Like originally, exactly. Maybe it'd be a case that, 2-3 years down the line, this becomes bigger, and then all of a sudden it becomes a bigger inherent part of our lives where we spend more time on this than we do other things that we enjoy, and we're like, actually, do we just prefer doing it where it's just you and me having a chat and we get to spread our views to the world? Or
regardless, we're doing that, right? Like that time when we met in the coffee shop, last time we recorded, we went to the coffee shop and I even told we have to have a camera. It would be good to have cameras because we had such a
great conversation.
Great conversation, yeah.
That's how I always answer it as well when people are like, how did you start it? I just like, it literally started because I went for coffee and I was like, if only microphones and cameras were attached to that conversation. And then I was like, boom.
Yeah.
Found someone that, because I always had the interest that I wanted to do something like this.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
And I always knew that I wanted to start something, but I think doing a podcast business is hard. Like, there's lots of podcasters that I look and see that talk about it, and they're like, it's not an easy thing when you take it past a certain threshold. It starts to become, more intense when it comes to finding more research out about a guest, reading the books on the guest, whatever it is that you've got coming in. Even doing the research now, it's like
takes time.
Yeah, 2-3 hours out of your week or 2 weeks for us sometimes, where it's hard to dedicate focus time just to sit down and go, right, I'm focusing on this because I want to do it. But when you get pulled to other things, you have to really manage that time, plus day-to-day shit, spending time with your friends, girlfriend, talking to your mum on the phone, doing business, whatever it is, work, like it's hard to carve out that time, and sometimes you have to sacrifice other things. Then you start looking at, okay, what do I need to cut out? What are bad habits? Okay, I don't need to sit on TikTok for an hour. I definitely don't need to watch TV or a movie. Maybe that's the time I'm going to be using it this now. But then you're like, oh, but I like watching a film. But then it's like, well, what do you want?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about trade-offs, I think. And when you look at hobbies and interests, it's about, what do I want to trade off more of my time? I think time is not viewed as, it's not seen as important as it is. Like, I view time like I do money. It's, if I lose money, I'm so pissed off. Like, if you had 50 quid on you right now in cash, and let's say you dropped it on the tube, you'd be so gutted.
Yeah,
like, I would be. It doesn't even matter how much money I'd make, I would still be pissed off at that. But I view time as that. If I waste time, I'm like, I get so annoyed with myself.
Really?
I don't know what it is.
I don't think I view it as serious as you do. I'm thinking of.
I remember growing up with my dad, it was interesting because he always used to stress about how much time he wasted.
Mm.
And I think I always used to view that as like, I don't want to waste my time because he does not see me. So I used to just, so like now I'm very much conscious of
Yeah.
my time and who I spend it with and how I spend it. And like, I don't know, man, like the last thing I want to do sometimes is if someone, like, yeah, I know it's so important to like see friends and go for a drink or like go to the pub, but like sometimes I'm sat there and I'm like, this is a waste of time.
Mm.
I could be doing something that I want to do, which is, I don't know, sometimes just sat in my room looking at a topic to research on a podcast
Yeah, yeah,
now.
yeah.
Like that's, well, it might not be what other people want to do. Some people love that. Some people love going to watch the rugby and going to watch people might be like, you're weird. You fucking just sit in a room and research relationships and hobbies. And I'm like, mate, I love that shit. You know, but it's about staying true to what you find interesting and what you love doing, just regardless of what other people
Finding
think.
your Ikigai, right?
Yeah, man. And I think that that's really the main thing, you know.
Do you
Feed
think you
into
had
that.
more hobbies and interests when you was a kid, like a child?
Yeah, because I have more time.
You reckon is the time? The time is the main killer of hobbies and interests.
Because I've crammed, I would say, me personally, I don't have as much time now because it's always filled with work. Like I'm always, so the first thing I think about when I wake up and it's the last thing I think about when I go to bed is work. Like,
well, like DOSMAS
just
or work in general?
just DOSMAS. And then also behind DOSMAS is, am I improving myself?
Yeah.
So if I'm not self-developing, whether that be like going to the gym, having some food, or reading a book, because I know my health is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably 80% of the time work is ahead of health right now, which isn't great, when really it should be health in front of work. But it's really hard when you're trying to build something. And I think that anyone that listens to this that is involved in that or trying to build something, whether it be a business, you will find in times that maybe you have to put work in front of things. Like, I don't have time to eat all the time because if there's a work opportunity, I'm going to take it because that's also important. Because I think it changed for me when my business was full time, and it's now my full time salary.
Yeah.
You're just constantly on the go.
Yeah. It's your baby, right?
Yeah. And I think that took up a lot of my time. Whether it was before when I was a kid, I had way much more time to spend on hobbies and interests that I had. Which, to be fair, weren't healthy habits. Like we were saying, like, you know, spending like fucking shooting games, bro. What about you? Do you feel you had more hobbies and interests as a kid?
I want to say now that you asked me, because before that I was thinking, I was thinking that I have more interest right now, but I think I'm wrong, because now I realize that I used to paint, I used to sing, I used to play outside with my friends, like shooting with like wooden guns. And
I think what's interesting is like maybe now I now do hobbies that resonate with me personally, whereas maybe as a kid I was just doing everything.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
so now because I have an understanding of my own personal preference,
yeah,
I'm like, maybe I feel like I've got more hobbies now. But as a kid, it was more just like I was just doing everything and anything, even what friends did, because that's what I wanted to lean into as well. It was the social part of things. So yeah, it's a bit different. I view hobbies differently now.
And you said I used to play guitar, but then you kind of lost.
Picked it up, lost it.
What do you think was the main? What causes you to lose interest in a hobby?
Having the time to do them and having the space to do them, I think was a big one. When I dropped it, it was because I was in a period of life where I was not in one place.
Mm-hmm.
I was moving around a bit, so I didn't have the freedom to pick something up and play it.
Yeah.
Now I've got that, but again, it's fucking time, man. I think it's my
Yes,
time management. I categorically, if I wanted to play guitar more, I'd probably need to put it in my calendar as a non-negotiable.
But if you, that's the thing, maybe you don't want it as much as you used to.
Yeah, maybe that as well.
I guess
Um,
it's not a bad thing that hobbies change over the time, right?
Yeah, I think I'm just prepared to I'm prepared to prioritize things over it. When actually, if I really did enjoy it, I would. But I do really enjoy it. It's a tough one. We're always very this is what I mean about time. We're very quick to dispose of time
Mm-hmm.
as a thing that's quite easily wasted.
Mm-hmm.
When it shouldn't be that. It should be. And I know that more now. I think I was very careless of my time before, which is why I never picked it up, because I was just like, yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I'll do that. I was always pulling myself away, even if it meant that I was disregarding things that I actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to change that.
Yeah, I watched this TEDx talk while I was researching the topic, and this PhD doctor, I would say, Karen McFarlane Holman.
Yeah,
Have you seen her as well?
yeah. I think I've recognized the name.
She said because she used to I forgot what did she study, but she studied something with molecules and atoms or something. I might be wrong, and I'm sorry if I am. But then so she was doing this science thing and building her career on that, and then her hobby, a side gig, was playing in a rock band. And it was just two completely different things that she was doing at the same time. And she said a really interesting point that it made me actually think that um, her science job, a career, was a marathon, and rock band was a cross training.
That's
So without
cool.
cross training, she wouldn't bring her A game to her marathon.
Marathon. Yeah,
I was like, damn, that's actually
that's dope.
it's really interesting
That's fucking dope.
that hobby, because that's it, as you said, man. Like, if you have a job that pisses you off and you do something that you just enjoy in the evening, either that would be martial arts, podcast, writing, you just zone out of all the happening that day, and then you just fully immersion to something that you love. Afterwards, you're naturally going to feel better, and that will give you a sense of purpose, I guess.
Hmm.
That's how I feel.
Hmm.
And look at the hobbies. And this is something I'm gonna read, but that's the same from that TEDx talk. So she said, spending leisure activity on the things you love positively impacts your career. In this study, they found this to be specifically true for activities that are high in seriousness and different from a person's career. So, science job and rock band is a completely different two things. And in those studies, they defined serious activities as those that had goals, aspirations, and some sort of risk involved, such as competition and performances. And they discovered that by pulling from various parts of our lives that have different skill sets and mindsets, we gain cross pollination between our hobbies and careers, which I found it really interesting because my current job is sales, and then I do martial arts on the side. And martial arts has this competitiveness and seriousness and performance aspects of it. And then from there, I just can bring that A game
Yeah.
to sales.
Hmm.
And I think your ones is very similar there because you go gym and then you cooking,
Yeah, I
you
feel
chefing. So
for sure. I feel confident by
yeah,
combining those two.
yeah, absolutely. So how to choose the hobby based on Karen? I've found if you don't have a hobby and you thinking about starting one, I think the best way would be to write down these three questions and then start to brainstorm which hobbies have these three elements. So, does it help you to become doing something? Am I developing a skill? So, it's very important if that hobby of yours is something that is something that you learn a new thing, such as an example, martial arts is a skill.
Yeah, it develops you.
It develops you, yeah. And then does it entail a risk of some kind? Again, martial arts kind of develops a risk, but it doesn't need to be martial arts. I'm just
Yeah.
saying because I experienced that. And does it include aspirations and goals? So obviously, if you want to lose weight or you want to learn how to do a head kick or whatever, if that includes, you hit a jackpot. And she says, if you hit at least one of them, is good enough. But if you fall for all three, you're in the right spot. So yeah, just to summarize, I think it's very important to have a work-life balance. No matter if you're 25 or 60, it's important to have a hobby, and the hobby can be your Ikigai and the purpose of your life. And without interests, hobbies, we don't really have anything. And it's very important to zone out for at least 2 or at least an hour in a day and just do whatever you love and just be purposeful about it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
You got a secret question for me? Because I've got one for you.
I feel like you should go first.
Cool. What's one hobby that you regret of not trying? If there is any, when will you try it?
Yeah, dancing.
Oh, mate,
Yeah,
me
man.
too.
Really?
Me too, yeah.
Is it really?
I mean, I really want to start it.
Yeah, I would love to start dancing.
Well, my girlfriend is a dancer, so...
Yeah, that's so interesting that you also...
Yeah, I want to learn like salsa or
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, I was... and I regret not trying it, but I don't think there's any late time to start trying.
Yeah. You need to make time, but... Yeah, that's it. You just need to make time.
It's making time to do it.
Jesus, I didn't expect
Yeah,
that.
man, that's
I thought you were going to
really
say
funny.
something like jump off the plane or whatever.
But could you it's like making there's like experiences then
Yeah, exactly.
then making that hobby.
Yeah.
If one hobby could bring you joy for the rest of your life, what hobby would you do?
If one hobby would bring me joy
For the rest of your life, what's the one hobby that you would do?
One?
Just one.
I mean, I'm kind of doing a one. What brings me joy, but now I have too many, I think. I would say jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably choose jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
Because it's a philosophy in life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah, man.
That sport. Yeah, that's it.
Nice one. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and we'll see you in the next one.